All right, so we're going to talk about starting the color wheel. And as you can see, I've already begun my color wheel. I have two of my colors done, but before I even get the paint out, besides the two colors, I want to point out how light my color wheel is. It's still very noticeable, but as we get further and further away, we don't see a ton of lines. Again, some areas could be a little bit lighter, but this is one thing I want you to do is to lighten up your color wheel with the eraser. So for the first day of painting, we are going to do the primary and the secondary colors. And I've made it easy on you because I have all of the primaries and all of the secondaries in your painting tray. And what we need to do is start with one color. I started with yellow and I painted it, and then I skipped and I did orange, because this is actually going to be what we call a tertiary or an intermediate color, and we don't have time for that today. So we're going to do the primaries and the secondaries. So there's yellow, orange. Then I would skip and I would go to yellow, orange would be, well, it'd be red. If you have any doubts on what would be next, all right, I will have a piece on the board, but you also have this color wheel to look at. And we can see here there's yellow, I would skip, orange, skip, and then I'd go to red. So this will be available also. All right, so what you are going to need is your paint tray. You're going to need a brush, and by each sink there is a container with 8 brushes. So I'm going to grab my brush. By the way, there is one paint tray per table today. Each person needs their own brush though, and each person needs their own water tray. Well, the water trays, there's also 8 by each sink, and you only need to fill it to about half full. I should be able to move it around without it spilling. And that's all I really need for that water. Okay, last thing, sorry I forgot, is grab a piece of paper towel. You don't need anything really big. Just grab a piece of paper towel. So this is what you are going to take back to your seat. All right, so then once you have everything set up, you're going to have to share this with other people at your table, which I will have 2 tomorrow for each table, but today we just have 1. And if you've ever worked with tempera cakes, you know that it can be very light or it can be very thick. We want to work with very thick, or we should be calling them opaque colors. So I'm going to go ahead and use the red. Now this red's a little dirty, so what I'm going to do is clean it off. I'm going to dip my paper towel in water, and I'm just going to wipe off any extra paint that we might see on there, because we want it to be as clean as possible. All right, then I'm going to dip my paintbrush in the water, and I'm going to go over the top of the paint until I get a nice thick loose paint. I'm dipping it just a little bit. If you saw that, I just barely tipped my paintbrush in the water because I want just a little bit. I'm going to run it around, run it around. By the way, I don't want to see anybody with their paintbrush straight up and down pushing the bristles flat. That is a no-no when it comes to paintbrushes. So I think I've got quite a bit on here. We'll see what happens here. So again, I'm going to skip, and then I'm going to paint my red. And when I do this, I want to go into the design that I made. I don't stop at any of the original circle lines. I'm now going to paint my design. I have this line right here, which is a border for my red, so I need to keep it in there. And if you notice that any of your colors tend to be a little too light, you can always go over it again, but that's pretty much what I need. So then I'm going to clean my brush out, and I can probably, because I'm doing purple next, I should be able to use the paintbrush as is. But if your water starts to get really dirty, you may have to go up to the sink and clean it out. So the next color is purple, and I'm going to do the same thing. Loosen up my paint, going in circles, around and around, just to kind of loosen it up. I'm going to skip a color. Let me see if I can get this in the camera. I'm going to skip right here, and this is where my purple would be. All right, and so I'm going to stop it right there and let you work.
Students need to come to the Nielsen.